Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Chapter 30, Evolving Relationships with Government, Building Policy Capacity, written by Sandy Houston. This chapter looks at how nonprofit organizations can have a bigger role in creating public policy. Houston believes that nonprofits shouldn't just provide services. They should also help governments make better decisions because they work directly with communities and understand the problems people are facing. To start, Houston explains why this topic is important. Nonprofit organizations work with people every day, so they have a good understanding of what communities need. They often see problems before governments do because they're on the front lines. Houston believes that governments can make better decisions when they listen to nonprofits and include them in the policy-making process. Instead of only reacting to problems, nonprofits can help prevent them by sharing what they've learned from working with the people. The main argument in this chapter is that nonprofits should have a bigger voice in public policy. Houston says these organizations have valuable knowledge because they work directly with communities. Governments have the power to make policies, but nonprofits understand how those policies affect the people in real life. When governments and nonprofits work together, Houston believes policies become more practical and more effective because different perspectives are included. Even though Houston believes nonprofits should be more involved, he explains that there are several challenges. The biggest challenge is funding. Many organizations don't have enough money to spend time on policy work because they're focused on providing services. Another challenge is staffing. Most nonprofits don't have enough employees whose job is to work with government or influence policy. Houston also explains that policy work takes knowledge and experience. Organizations need to understand how government works and how to communicate with decision makers. Because of these challenges, many nonprofits don't participate in policy decisions, even though they have valuable ideas. Houston gives several examples of organizations that successfully influence public policy. One example is the National Housing Collaborative, which brought different organizations together to help improve Canada's housing strategy. Another example is the Green Budget Coalition. This group worked together to make recommendations on environmental policy. He also talks about the Eco-Fiscal Commission, which focused on research and ideas related to environmental issues like carbon pricing. I think these examples help support Houston's argument because they show that when organizations work together, they really can influence government decisions. After explaining the challenges, Houston also suggests ways to improve the situation. First, he believes nonprofits need more funding so they can have the time and resources to participate in policy work. He also says organizations need better training so staff understand how policy is developed and how they can work with governments. Another recommendation is building stronger partnerships between governments and nonprofits. Instead of only communicating once in a while, they should work together on a regular basis. Finally, Houston believes governments should create better opportunities for nonprofits to share their ideas before important policy decisions are made. He believes these changes would lead to stronger public policy and better outcomes for communities. One thing I liked about this chapter is that Houston uses real Canadian examples instead of only talking about theory. The examples made it easier to understand how policy advocacy actually works. I also like that he didn't just point out problems, he offered realistic solutions that governments and organizations could actually use. Overall, I thought the chapter was practical and easy to follow. Even though I agree with most of the chapter, I think there's a few limitations. The article focuses mostly on organizations that were successful. Smaller charities may not have the same funding or opportunity to participate in policy work. I also think the chapter assumes governments are always willing to work with nonprofits. In reality, politics, budgets, and different priorities can make collaboration much more difficult. So while Houston's recommendations make sense, they may not always be easy to put into practice. Overall, I agree with Houston's main argument. I think nonprofits should have a bigger role in creating public policy because they work closely with the communities and understand what people need. At the same time, I understand why many organizations don't participate more. If they're already struggling with funding or staffing, it's hard to spend time influencing government policy. I think stronger partnership between governments and nonprofits would lead to a better long-term solutions instead of only solving problems after they happen. To conclude, this chapter argues that nonprofits have valuable knowledge that government should use more often. Although there are challenges like funding, staffing, and limited policy experience, Houston believes these challenges can be overcome through better support, stronger partnership, and better communication. Overall, I think the chapter makes a strong case that policy advocacy is an important part of creating positive social change. And then here are my discussion questions. Do you think nonprofits should have a bigger role in government policy? Why or why not? What do you think is the biggest challenge stopping nonprofits from influencing government decisions? And do you think influencing public policy creates more long-term change than simply providing service, and why? Thank you.